Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa. Welcome to Tactical Look, a brand new concept coming to the channel every single game week, going in depth on Aston Villa's opposition. We're going to be going in depth on Newcastle United, taking a look at their system, what are their weaknesses, what's going to be the Aston Villa lineup, and how do the two teams combined and merge together, and where are the key areas for Aston Villa to exploit this Newcastle side, and where are the areas Aston Villa need to watch out for on Newcastle United. So, Villa fans, if you are new to the channel, make sure you are subscribing. Newcastle fans, if you get value from this content, drop me a subscribe and comment your thoughts, and make sure you're all hitting that like button as well. So, my analysis started a couple of days ago, and it was made a little bit easier when Newcastle flipped the tactics board round and we found their system that they were playing against Espanyol. You don't really want to give Unai Emery too much ammunition, guys. But in all seriousness, they were playing a different system against Espanyol, and we'll go into that system at the end. Maybe this is a system that they are going to work with in Champions League. They're going to work with as the season goes on. But for me, I think the system that they're going to play against Aston Villa on Saturday will be something similar to what we have seen before from Newcastle United. So we're going to break down Newcastle United's system then, and we're going to take a look at what they are, what do they do, what positions are they trying to get into. So team selection, we've got Gordon. Is a doubt, might play, might not, but I've put him in there because I think it highlights the effectiveness of him. They've signed Malik Fior as well, so he potentially could play, but we'll stick with the current system of players and personnel, and I have put Alanga in there as well. So Newcastle United, in essence, are a 4-3-3. They have a sensational midfield two of Tonali and Guimaraes. Joelinton I like. Looks like Jacob Ramsey maybe going to Newcastle United as well. So he, for me, will be playing in this little pocket here with Joelinton in and out, maybe one of them on the bench. If not, that's the position that I would see Jacob Ramsey playing for Newcastle. And I actually feel like he might benefit through playing as an actual central midfielder in a three. So their system is hybrid. It moves around. There's a lot of rotations. They've got a defensive partnership of Byrne and Shaw. Shaw, very good at Villa Park, seems to always score against Aston Villa. But it's their fullbacks that make this system very hybrid. So what happens is either fullback can go forward, Hall can go and attack, and then what you'll find is that Gordon will then invert and play into this inside position through here. We see exactly the same with Alanga drifting infield, and then it'll be Livramento who offers that width on that right-hand side. They will play with a central midfielder that sits at the base. Last season, it was Tonali. It has shifted. It has moved around. Guimaraes can do that role as well. And I think Tonali, for me, is one of those players that he's like an Italian stallion. He's just got so much power, and how he just bursts through and drives through teams is really impressive. What you'll find from the striker, well, what we found from Isak is that Isak can drop deep. And that's a big thing for this Newcastle United system. The ability for the striker to drop deep, and then you start getting runners off. Last season, we saw Murphy running off Isak, and Isak is very good. You know, I think a lot of people can look at Newcastle and Isak and go, all they notice is the goals. You know, he's very technical. He's very good at striking the ball, heading, everything inside the 18-yard box, in and around it, fantastic. But what really likes me with Isak is this work that he can do in this area. We've seen him doing work on touch lines and bylines and just being a progressive player for the whole team, really. So I would imagine they might want to go for Osula. I think as a football fan, I respect any striker. You know, I'm not looking at this situation going, oh, Isak's not playing, Villa will win because they haven't got their best. I've seen players come to Villa Park in the Champions League and play really well, and you don't expect them either from Celtic, El Kaabi, from Olympiacos. Some of them you've never heard of, and they end up doing really well. So He's very tall, very languid, and I think probably given an opportunity, Asula might actually do quite well to start with at Newcastle. So you know what strikers are like. They're very confident. They are players that just feed off confidence. So I think in a nutshell, on a tactical element, this is something that I would expect to see from Newcastle. Their positions, the way they move, I think their system's very good. But we will go more in depth on actual individual styles in a second of what we can get from sort of like individual makeups. But I really just wanted to highlight and show you what this system is really all about. So as we can see here now from the heat maps, you can see that Livramento, his main body of work is in this area here. So what this shows is that there's a lot of work that goes in here and goes in here as well. And then now it's important to notice where's the left winger gone? The left winger has gone inside. So again, we can see that the position now of Harvey Barnes, who was playing on the left-hand side. What I did is I picked a game where Newcastle were very dominant. So I picked Ipswich at home because I think when you're analysing and looking at a team, you want to look at the best version of them sometimes. So the best version of them was a really dominant performance against Ipswich at home. And then you can start to see the systems and where players are playing and the key areas, the good areas that they really want to get into as well. So again, we can see that his starting position is generally around here, and then his finishing position is really drifting into this area. So you can see the combination and the pattern between the two players. Livramento goes down, Harvey Barnes inverts. And it's a similar story on the opposite side. So again, we've got Kieran Trippier, who was playing at right back, and we can see that he had a very strong game. But actually look at the main body and bulk of his work. We can see that here it's very narrow, and then we start to get wider and more width as we go into these areas. So we're seeing heavy touches in and around this final third area. So again, system similar to the opposite side, and then you'll start to see Murphy will then start to be inverting. And again, we can see that Trippier had his body of work through here, and then Murphy is now into that zone area through there as well. So wingers that start off wide, that then come inside and invert, that allow the fullbacks to get further down the pitch and offer that width. And then what it's all about is having that front four, front five, getting those numbers when they're in possession, how structurally they can sit as well. And then finally, I just wanted to show you when I was talking about Isak and Isak's touches in this game. You'd think, okay, he's going to have main touches, 18-yard box. But no, this is why I think Isak is going to be a miss if he leaves Newcastle, because of all of these touches that he's getting in these areas. And when I look at Isak as a player, I see a player that's just really comfortable at taking touches, retaining the ball, keeping it ticking over. His overriding overall play is very, very good. And I think that could be overlooked from some when you're just looking at this Isak situation going, it's his goals that you're going to miss. And I think, no, it's the package. He's that good. So what I wanted to do now is I wanted to just highlight and show you some of the areas that combine all of these that I'm saying. So we've seen from a tactical pad, we've seen from heat maps. Now let's have a look at game state images. So this was against Manchester United, and it really shows you the areas in which Newcastle are getting into. So we can see here now that we have got Tonali at the base, which is something that we mentioned earlier. He's the one that's protecting. He's the one that's making sure that there's protection for the back two, who potentially could be isolated once they're on the attack. And we can see that when Livramento's got the ball, he's got all this space down here to attack. And then we can see that Harvey Barnes has now inverted and making up that central position. Now, he can then go out wide. He can make a run. He can go and make a run into this channel through here to help. And then once he gives and goes, then we could get Livramento that drops into that area. So different rotations, different movements, different patterns are all very important to this Newcastle United system. Again, now we've got on the same side in the second half, we have got the overlap. So we can see that Harvey Barnes has got the ball. He's making a nice little layoff to Livramento. And then the overload, we've got an overload because the overload is right in front of us. So the overload is with Barnes and Livramento up against the Manchester United defender. A overload is when you've got two players up against one player. You have the advantage. And in this situation here, Livramento can drive and take a touch. He could whip the ball in straight away. He's got options. So they've worked this area really, really well. So I think that highlights the areas where they are working really well within the football pitch. Now, we've got good and bad. So there are areas to exploit Newcastle United. And the big area to exploit Newcastle United is actually in behind the midfield three of Tonali, Guimaraes, and Joe Linton. This area here is an area that is able to be bypassed. And the one thing that you want to do against Newcastle United is you want to get 1, 2, 3. You want to get these three players running this way. You don't want them here blocking, covering. You want them running the opposite direction. So from a Villa point of view, and this was a pattern and an area last season that I highlighted, that if you get in behind that Newcastle United midfield three, there are areas to exploit. And you do not need to give Aston Villa an invitation to be able to play through the lines, to be able to play through this area where Morgan Rogers, Guesson, ball carriers are able to drive at a defensive back three or a defensive back four. Now, against Newcastle, we've got some case studies here from the time when we beat them at Villa Park last season. And again, what we can see here is exploiting the space in behind the Newcastle United midfield three. Now, we saw in this game especially that balls played through this midfield three caused massive amounts of problems. We've got Ollie Watkins here now who's able to attack this space. This was in the first couple of minutes of the game. Tonali then gets to sort of like by the corner flag and he clears it. And then Aston Villa are able structurally in their shape to mop up the second ball. And then we're able to score a goal from this moment right here. But this space, again, in behind this midfield three, exposing this three, is something that I think Aston Villa will definitely be trying to look at and isolate the midfield during this game as well. Again, right here now, sometimes against Newcastle United, there is an element and an ability to go a little bit longer and play balls over the top. Because Newcastle United's midfield three are so good, you know, it takes a good team to get the better hand of this Newcastle team. It's not easy. You can go a little bit longer. So you can play balls over the top. Now, playing balls over the top, what does that do? Is if you play a ball over the top into this area right here, what this enables you to do is it enables you to bypass Tonali, Guimaraes, or Joelinton. I don't know what we've got going on here. We might have took one off at this point, but it enables you to bypass this midfield, which is another weapon in which Unai Emery can look to try and do as well. We've got really good players like Kamara who can play those little lofted passes as well. I remember in this game, there was one player that had an absolute nightmare for Newcastle, and it was Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier didn't know whether he was coming and going, didn't know whether to drop, didn't know whether to stay in position. And again, we've got a situation here now where your right back is completely out of position here. You know, you'd want him probably here, but he's out of position. He's probably gone to a Villa player, engaged with a Villa player, lost out. And again, just like Newcastle have the overload, this is Villa's left back now, who's able to be slipped in and able to score. So rotations from Aston Villa are very important. And I'm going to show you a little tactic that Aston Villa do, especially against this Newcastle United defence right now. Right? So what do Villa do normally to negate Newcastle United? Now, Eddie Howe might cotton on to this, but this is very difficult to stop, and I'll show you why. Now, we know that Newcastle United go man for man. They go man for man, and they are very aggressive. Now, when you go man for man, if you do this, okay, let me show you on. I'll show you I'll show you in a second. I'll show you in a second because I'll be able to highlight it a little bit easier for you. So, if you go man for man and stay in your own position structurally, then it's very easy for the defender to try and win the ball. What Villa do is we pin another man on another player. So we have a 2v2 in a certain area, and we look to win the ball back in that area. So if we see here now, we've got John McGinn and Ollie Watkins. We look to win the ball. Villa do win the ball. We've pinned a player. We've dragged a player out of position, which creates more space, more opportunity for the runners to run through and run past players. This ends up going to Ollie Watkins here. But when I do the merging in a second, I'm going to show you this tactic because I think it is really important from an Aston Villa point of view. So those are all of the areas that I've really highlighted of how Newcastle attack, where their weakness lies, a little bit of a case study of how Villa have been able to get joy against Newcastle in the past. So we'll have a look at that in a second then. And what we're going to do is we're going to predict the Villa lineup then, and we're going to take a look at what I expect from a Villa point of view, and then we'll merge the two teams together and we'll take a look at what we can expect tactically from both sides. So it's going to be a little bit like a tactical breakdown of how I see the game plan going. So let's have a look then at what we can expect from Aston Villa. And what's my predicted lineup first? So there's no Emi Martinez. Bezo is going to play in goal for Aston Villa. I'm going to go with Ian Matson at left back for Aston Villa. Pace, I think, is going to be key. Potentially, he could be coming up against Livramento if he's at right back for Newcastle. So that should be a really top battle. So Livramento, Matson, top battle. Right, next up, we are going to go with Pau Torres for Aston Villa. We are going to see him being partnered with Ezri Konsa. Now, we've got a couple of permutations with Villa. We're not sure where Rodgers is, but I'm going to imagine Rodgers can play. So that's what I'm going to do. And I am also going to... It's tough because what do Villa do with their system? But I think because it is Newcastle and it's going to be a tough game, I'm going to go with Bogard starting for Aston Villa. Now, Bogard has had a fantastic pre-season. So I'm going to go with Bogard starting at right back. And again, I'm going to highlight my points why when we do the tactical matchup in a second. I've got Boubacar Kamara, and I'm going to go with Yuri Tielemans. I am then going to go with... What am I going to go with? I'm going to go with... what am I going to go with? I'm going to go with... I think McGinn... I don't think McGinn plays in this, you know. I don't think McGinn plays. I'm going to go with Rodgers off Watkins. I'm then going to go with... Guesson is going to get his start. So Guesson is going to start on the right. And then, I think McGinn's going to play then. McGinn's going to be on the left for Aston Villa. So McGinn will be on the left and Watkins will start up top for Aston Villa. So that is going to be my lineup then. And I think that is pretty pretty good. I think it's pretty strong. If we then now put the Newcastle lineup in here, then so Ramsdale in goal, we'll have Dan Burn, we'll have Shaw next to Dan Burn. We are going to then have Hall. Your midfield will be Tonali. You'll have Joe Linton in there, and you will have Gomes. So we'll say Gordon's going to start. I think Gordon might start. Osula. Now, what I will say about Newcastle is they have been playing with Gordon as the false nine. I don't like that. I mean, it's not for me to like, but I don't like it. I think they'd be better with this Osula starting up top. So, where are the key battles in this game going to be? Obviously, central midfield. Now, it needs highlighting that Yuri Tielemans last season was the highest rated player out of both of these teams. So respect needs to go on Tielemans' name because he had a better season than Gomes, Tonali, Joelinton. Tielemans was the guy. Now, we know he was the guy because we can see from these ratings right here that Yuri Tielemans was the highest rated player. He was the 7th highest rated player last season in the Premier League. So Yuri Tielemans doesn't need to be slept on by anyone because he's a fantastic player and very, very good in this midfield. So why have I gone with Bogard for Aston Villa then? So I've gone with Bogard because I think Villa in build-up. So if Villa are in build-up, we are going to be in a back flat 3. So if Maatsen goes forward, McGinn inverts, Tielemans, Kamara will be in there together. You'll have Bogard, Konsa, and you'll have Power as well. Now, what this enables Villa to do is enables Kamara to fully engage in this midfield battle. Now, this midfield battle here is going to be absolutely key to winning this game from either side's point of view. So for me, Kamara and Tielemans have been pretty much on the same line in pre-season. Kamara has been really aggressive, jumping, pressing, and we know Newcastle, will have the ball in certain areas, so we want Kamara to be able to jump and be aggressive. Now, because we're in a kind of a hybrid 3 at the back with 2 wide players, with Guesson and Maatsen, we don't need Kamara to screen. Now, if this was Matty Cash that was kind of having more license to go forward, Kamara would have to be the one that moves across into that area there. What that ends up meaning has got to happen is that your player in here has got to drop and be a number against this Newcastle 3. So it's vitally important for me in this game that Kamara sits and stays and be aggressive in central midfield. And the way in which we can do that is if Bogard stays and doesn't have to progress further forward. Then I think you've got defensive cover if you need to with Konsa, if Alanga goes through, etc. And I think we've just got that balance, which is quite right in central midfield as well. Then Aston Villa can try and make that front 5, front 6 if Tielemans has to go in there as well when Aston Villa are in possession. I think Lewis Hall is a really good player. Do we want him being progressive and getting into those areas? No. So having someone like Guesson, who is very direct, very athletic, has got physicality about him, again, helps in a game where you've got players like Joe Linton, who are very, very aggressive, and Dan Burn with height. You've got Tonali with physicality. You got Osula if he starts. So this battle here with Guesson staying wide, coming forward through there, I think is a good matchup. McGinn, I think, again, if needs be, we've got that midfield 3 in there as well. He can drop and cover. We'll add protection for Maatsen as well. Watkins is a willing runner. If he makes moves, then you've got McGinn who can drop in there. You've got Rodgers. If it's not Rodgers, then it'll probably be Daniel Marlon. But I think this is my team that I would play against Newcastle. Now, where we were talking earlier about Newcastle matching up on Aston Villa. So imagine Villa are in build-up now. So we're in build-up. We're playing out from the back. What's going to happen? Well, you are going to get players that move into these areas sort of through here. So Guimaraes will be on McGinn. We've got this area. We've got this here. Right. So this is Newcastle United man for man. Right. So they're man for man. This is what they're going to do. When we play it from the back, it's going to be man for man. If he gets the ball, boom. If he gets the ball, boom. If he gets the ball, boom. They'll jump on us. They'll be quick. They'll be aggressive. So how do you get away from this? And it's clever what Aston Villa do. So Watkins will often peel off here, and Rodgers could do the same. What have we already done? We've made a gap. The gap is in this area through here. There's your gap, which is a problem. But what Villa do really clever against man for man, especially against Newcastle, is we'll move another player over there. So you'll have two players that are over that one side, which creates an even bigger gap. Now, man for man, it's all about beating your man. Now, for example, if Villa play out from the back and Tielemans has got the ball and has, say, swiveled Tonali and he's got his head up, who's he looking for? He's going to be looking for three players to attack space, which is going to be Rodgers, Watkins, or possibly McGinn, that are then moving and spreading across. So this little tactic is something that Villa have employed numerous times. We've seen it on the opposite side with Dan Burn up against John McGinn. So those are elements. Where Villa got to be sort of watching out for Newcastle, and it's in these channels. So these channels through here now, where Elanga will be operating, is the danger zones for me. So we'll go yellow for danger zones. So danger zone, danger zone, danger zone. So I've got 3 danger zones against Newcastle. My danger zone number 1 is central midfield, cannot be overrun. If you've got players like Tonali, Guimaraes dictating play, getting on the ball, popping things off, running off you, not tracking runners, it's game over, right? That is a disaster to start with. The other options now is that they've got pace on both sides with Gordon and Elanga. Aston Villa in pre-season have been playing with the high line. The high line's back. Now that works to our advantage because you're using technology to your advantage. A lot of the time, Villa's line is very straight and very good. So players try and get in front of that and they're offside. But the areas on transition with Elanga's pace, Gordon's pace, is just something that we've got to make sure we are watching and we're not having them tearing down on our goal. They're not tearing down on Bezo. So that's another area. Other area, they've now got a new set piece coach, Newcastle. So I imagine they're going to be quite creative. Villa have got the best set piece coach in the game, Austin McPhee. We've got the best stats going for defending and attacking set pieces. So I think we should be in safe hands there, but we've got to watch Shaw because he always scores against Aston Villa. Now, mapping up the two teams together, this is what we saw last time at Villa Park. So what you can see is that Villa's defence and back line was very good because we've got here now the images from the game and the average positions of where Villa operated. So we can see that Villa's back 4 sat in that area there. Expansive, nice, good distances together. You'd got Kamara covering as well. And then you start to look at Newcastle's and what we actually did to Newcastle. And there's 2 little stories in here. We overloaded central midfield. So we completely suffocated the middle of the pitch for Newcastle, which would be in that area through there. We absolutely dominated that area. And what we was able to do as well is something that I've spoke about quite a lot on this episode, is we moved Trippier all over the pitch. Didn't know whether he was coming or going. And what we've been able to do is create space. Now, when I was talking about space in behind the Newcastle midfield, this is the area that I'm talking about. That is the space you exploit. You exploit that space, the space in behind both fullbacks, and the gap in between both of these 2 centre-halves. So those are the gaps, the areas, the space that you want to be exploiting, setting your traps, and then having your runners be able to exploit. So I really wanted to highlight the two images together because I think it really does show a really good picture of where both teams attack and defend. And I think I've been able to do that. Now, going back to this, this actually, when I saw it and I was analysing, I thought, you know what? Is there something in this? Have they tweaked their system? And I was able to find the average positions from this game, which highlights this image perfectly. So if I show you now, so this was the image from this game. And what could we see? We could see a 3 at the back. So the 3 at the back was 1, 2, 3. So 3 was Hall. So Hall made the 3. Target was number 13, who operated in this area through here as well. So if we're looking at the numbers game from that image, what we can see is you've got your 1, 2, 3 at the back. Then you've got your holder as the 1 that was sat holding. You've got target in this area here. So that was your 2 here. So you've got Gomes and Trippier. And then you've got your front 4. So Hall stayed at home but did progress, but he was actively being part of a back 3. Target was going further forward. You've got Miley, who was the defensive cover, the 3 of Gomes and Trippier, and then the front 4. And if we go back to the image, you can see that this is what you'd got then. So if I just show you on this image, because look, this might be a brand new system for Newcastle. This might be something that they're going to do this season, and it's worth taking a note. So there, that was Hall. You've got your other 2 defenders. That was Miley. This was Target and Gomes. And then you'd got your width on this area through here with that front 4. So it's interesting to look at, interesting to see tactically elements of what they've been working on. So I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. I think I have. Right, so this is Tactical Look, a brand new concept to the channel, going in depth on every opposition Aston Villa are going to be playing. It's new, fresh, different. It enables me to create the content I really like talking about. A lot has gone into this episode to research and get it right. So hopefully you've all enjoyed it. If you can subscribe to the channel, get on the journey, smash the likes, help me out. There's going to be loads more to come with this concept. Hopefully Villa fans have enjoyed it. Newcastle fans as well, having me look at their system, having a look at how this match is going to match up. So cheers everyone for watching. Up the Villa.